everybody. So today I'm going to be working on a little mini model, and I got this model kit from Randy Cooper Models, and I will leave a link down in the description below. But Randy makes some really cool garage kits made of resin, like resin kits. And this particular kit is a mini model of the Proteus from Fantastic Voyage, so the really cool futuristic submarine from the classic sci-fi movie Fantastic Voyage, which I believe came out in 1966. And the movie is really cool because of its special effects. I mean, it was really a really well done movie for its day, and especially back in those days when everything was done practically. So you get the little Proteus here, and it's pretty well detailed actually for the scale because it's pretty small. And it's going to need a little bit of initial work on here, a little bit of light sanding here and there, but for the most part it actually looks pretty good. And you know, a little bit of things like the rough edges here they're going to have to probably sand down, but it looks pretty good for the most part. It also comes with this tiny little bit here. This is the dome that goes on the top, so I'm going to have to sand off all of this square section here because I just need the round area, but that dome is going to go up here at the top, so that's where that goes. And then it also comes with this really cool base or diorama, which looks like in the movie you can see there when they're going through like a tube-shaped vein or an artery, and you can kind of see these kind of triangular shaped bits in here. And I think it changed colors in the movie. It was red and purple and blue, and I think I might do a light purple on this and just do the lines on here in black. And then there's a little hole here where you can support the model, and it's got a hole here as well, where you can use maybe a piece of wire. I think I might use a piece of paper clip or something to support it. And so yeah, so maybe just a little bit of sanding back here, you can kind of see how that looks. But yeah, just a little bit of work. It's actually, you know, most of these garage kits are usually in pretty rough shape when you get them, but this one's actually not bad at all. Now, about 3 years ago, I think is when this kit came out. I believe this was from Mobius Models, and this was the larger scale Proteus model, and it's really, really a good model. In fact, I think this was the first commercially available model of this we ever had. Up until this point, we only had garage kits like the resin kits, and they were all of varying degrees of scale, size, you know, and accuracy. But this one was the first styrene kit, and it was really well done, very well detailed. Some people have said that some of the details aren't exactly right on it, but that's neither here nor there when you consider that there was 4 different Proteus models used in the movie. We had the full-size one that was 5 feet long, one that I think was 1.5 feet, and then there was just a little one which was 1.5 inches, and that's why I really liked this this little one, because it reminds me of that little Proteus. But this one is this was a great kit. It had a full interior on the inside, and it even has a lab back here. And so let me try to zoom in there and show you what that looks like. Okay, so now looking at the interior, this model had a really great interior in it. It looks just like it did in the movie, and all the little computer things. Let me see if I can get a better light in there. Let me see, you can just get it right. But you can kind of see the that's where they had those little maps inside there. There's actually some seats. Sorry for the dust. This has been sitting on a shelf for quite a while. Let me see if I can get the seats. You can see the seats right there. And then let me see if we can look towards the back. You can kind of see the little computer like dials and stuff back there. And on this side, you can actually see the ladder. There's even a fire extinguisher in there, and there's a ladder. And there's also the, I don't know what you call it, there's like the tank back there where they would kept going in and out to go to the outside. There's like a little pressurized chamber back there. And then up here you can actually see the nice little control chair. And it's pretty detailed, so everything is all there. So yeah, this was a great model. Came out, like I said, about 3 years ago. And you know, most models that have interiors, you don't really get to appreciate it very much because the windows are so small. And you only get to see maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15%. But in this model, it's got such a nice big window, you can actually see it all. So this model probably would have benefited from having lights in it. But I don't do models, lights with models anymore, as I've mentioned in previous videos. But yeah, this is a good kit, so I was really glad to get it. Oh, one of the things about it is there is actually a full lab back down in here. And unfortunately, you don't get to see it. Once you seal everything up, you don't get to see the lab anymore. And I didn't want to leave the top removable because I don't know, I didn't want the whole thing falling apart. But there is a YouTube channel, and it is called Aztec Dummy, and it's hosted by Lou Dalmaso, and he is the model guru extraordinaire. I mean, he is so good at building model kits, and he found a way to cut this back section right here so you can take it out and look at the lab inside. And so I thought that was a good solution. I just didn't want to cut into the hull and have like cut lines in there. But anyway, so let me show you some screen grabs from the movie. Now, looking at this scene in the movie, this was actually the full-size Proteus, and this thing was huge, and it's amazing. I mean, it's a full-size mock-up of the submarine, and it even had a full interior too, and then sections of this front area could come off so that they could actually film on the inside of it as well. So it was quite an elaborate set, and it was pretty huge, and I guess 20th Century Fox back in those days was known for making these full-size mock-ups of ships, and one of them notably was from the classic television show Lost in Space with the full-size Jupiter 2. But unfortunately, just like the Jupiter 2, this did not survive after it was done. It was probably just trashed. The Jupiter 2 sat on the lot for about 3 years until it started to deteriorate, and they ended up just taking it apart. I don't really know if this one was around for a while, but unfortunately it didn't survive. So in this scene, we can actually see the Proteus just peeking through right there between these little fibrous things. That was actually the 5-foot miniature, so that's a pretty big model, and so that means this set was just huge. And they, I'm not really sure why they used so many different sized ships, models, but I guess it just depended on the shot that they needed. So here's the scene where they're going through kind of like a vein, and you can see how it's kind of purplish, and the little designs along the side here are all black. So that's how the base looks on that model kit. So I'm just going to go with the purple color for that background. One funny little bit of trivia is that in this scene where they are using this snorkel to get air from the lungs, because I think they had to do something with the ship, they were having some kind of problem, that snorkel would appear again in Lost in Space. It was actually reused as the drill for the deuteronium that they're always digging for. So a lot of the props and some of the scenery was actually used in Lost in Space, because Irwin Allen was known for reusing a lot of stuff. And I guess since this was filmed on the same lot, 20th Century Fox, and also because they were filmed around the same time, he was able to use a lot of stuff from this movie. So that was kind of a funny little thing right there. Now, this was my favorite miniature from the movie. It's the little 1.5-inch one, and for only being 1.5 inches, it's actually pretty detailed. I mean, you can see they actually decked that out pretty good for being so tiny. I mean, they even have all the little foot, I don't know what you call it, these little foot things on the side, the foot pads, and this is where they're picking it up with that really super sensitive precision forklift piece. So yeah, that's the reason I bought the Randy Cooper model. Now, just a few minutes later, they show this again, and this is after they put the little 1.5-inch model into the syringe, so it's floating around in the water. But interestingly enough, it looks like it had suffered some damage by this time. If you look at the little engine jets down here at the bottom, you can see that they have broken off at this point. There's a little bit of staining going on over here, and it looks like some of the detail on the top of that yellow hatch is now missing. So kind of interesting. I wonder what happened to it that it ended up losing some of that detail. But one of the funniest parts about this little 1.5-inch miniature is that it's used again later in the movie where they're going through a whirlpool, and they actually did those special effects outdoors. It's where they filmed it. Well, during a break in the filming where they were either letting the model dry out or whatever, a bird came out of nowhere and swooped down and grabbed this little 1.5-inch model and took off with it, and it was never seen again. It was just the most bizarre thing, and so I guess it must have thought it was a little bug to eat or something. So I couldn't believe it. So that little model is lost, unfortunately, because it would probably be worth a fortune today. But a funny little story that happened to that little miniature model. So that little tiny miniature was my inspiration for buying this Randy Cooper one, because I think it very much resembles that particular model, and that being my favorite. So I'm really glad that Randy makes these smaller ones. So while the one in the movie is about 1.5 inches long, this one measures in at about maybe 3 1/8 inch long. So it's bigger than the one that they had in the movie, but I'm glad because it'll be a little easier to deal with the details. So, all right, so I think I'll do some initial sanding on this, and we'll see what we're going to do with it after that. Alrighty, so I started working on some of the preliminary stuff here. So I went ahead and sanded the edges just to kind of smooth everything out and any kind of rough spots or whatever. And then I used an X-Acto blade to kind of get rid of some of the extra flashing that was kind of in this area and this area, and that kind of opened up those little flaps. And same thing back here where the tail fin is, that was all sealed up with flashing. So I got all that cleared out, as well as just on the corners here of that back stabilizer bit. And so then now I'm just kind of painting the windows black, and then I'm going to mask those once that all dries. And then same thing with the bottom here. There's this little front section here, and there's supposed to be a little grill there, and I'm going to see if I can try to put the 3 bars on each side by using some evergreen styrene cylinder pieces or rods. And it's going to be super tiny, but I'll see if I can somehow make that work. So yeah, and then also I got the little dome all sanded down now, and so I just have the this piece all done. And now I gotta say, on Randy's website, that dome was molded in clear, and I don't know why he didn't do that. This one is molded in the same color as this stuff. So yeah, that is not a clear piece. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is just paint the rim of it white, and then I'm just gonna do silver on the top. So it's just gonna have to represent a clear dome by just having silver on there, because I really don't know what else to do. So yeah, it's really unfortunate that he is not molding that in clear anymore, so I'm not sure why he changed it. Alright, well anyway, that's what I got done so far. Alright, so I've been working on this for a couple hours or so now, and so I got all the masking done on here, and what a pain that was. So it looks a little rough there, but once it's painted white it should look good, because those frames won't be black like you see around the windows there. So yeah, and I'm sure I'll have to do touch-ups on it. Another thing, this little dot right here, I decided to put some kind of a detail on there because it's lacking it. It's supposed to have like a little lock ring on there. That was the ring that they would turn to unlock the hatch. So I found a tiny little piece that was actually part of something else, and I put another one down here. You can kind of see it. But anyway, so I was looking through I have this little stash of pieces and parts that were left over from past models. You can see pieces of 3PO in there from that video I did for 3PO, but there's all kinds of stuff in there, and I found these tiny rings that were actually part of a military piece or something. I just cut that little ring off, and it works pretty good. And then I decided to add this detail on the side. On the back here, there's these it's kind of like little louvers on that back fin, and it didn't have that detail on it. So all I did is took some of this sheet styrene here and just used an X-Acto knife and cut these tiny little pieces. I mean, it's ridiculously dumb to actually go crazy and do that kind of stuff, but I don't know, it was just kind of bothering me that it was kind of empty right there. So I just cut little pieces and just kind of made it look the way it's supposed to look a little bit. This side didn't turn out quite as good because that second piece is, I don't know if I can focus on it, but that little second section right in the, I don't know, it's hard to point it out, but anyway, it didn't quite go on the right way or something. I'm not really sure. It looks like it stuck out a little bit too much, but anyway, I wish I could focus on that better, but this camera is just not working. So anyway, but I think it looks better than just not having anything back there. I mean, at least it's detailed and, you know, makes it look a little more accurate. So I think I'm finally done doing any kind of preliminary stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to paint this white now. And so we'll see how that turns out. All right, so now I got everything painted up here. So this is the white. And it does look much better now that it doesn't have that tan colored resin. But yeah, that turned out pretty good. It does look much better now. I just hope that when I take these masks off the windows that those come off decent. I know I'm going to have to do some touch-ups on it, though, because this paint... So I couldn't find my usual favorite Tamiya paint. The hobby shop was out. I don't know what's going on with the hobby shop where I live, but they just cannot seem to get paint in. And it seems like everybody else doesn't have a problem. So I ended up having to use testers, just plain white. And I just, oh God, I just not a fan of it. It's one of these paints that takes forever to dry. It's pretty much dry now. I've let it sit overnight, but it has a little bit of tackiness to it. But the white dried better than the purple. So here's the diorama piece, and I painted it a light purple. And they didn't have a light purple Tamiya paint, so I ended up using testers as well. And this one feels a little tackier than the Proteus, but it's had a chance to dry overnight, so it should be okay. But I'm just not a fan of these other brands of paint because I found out that this stuff is made by Rust-Oleum, and Rust-Oleum is, in my opinion, one of the worst paints. I've never had good experiences with it. It just seems like it takes forever for that stuff to dry. I don't know why. They just can't make paint that dries faster. Tamiya dries really fast. If this was Tamiya, this would be bone dry by today and wouldn't have any tackiness on it at all. So I guess next time I'll just order some online. But yeah, so anyway, that's where I'm at so far. And I think I'll try to start doing some of the more detailed painting on there. And I also want to start painting that little dome piece too. So, but I need to go back to the hobby shop because I bought 2 of these cans of paint and I'm going to go return that other one. And then I want to go get some piece of metal rod to use as the support that goes in here because I don't really think that paperclip's going to be very good. So, all right, well, on to the next step. All right, so I think I am actually done with the actual Proteus part of this model. And oh my gosh, so very, very tiny stuff to do here. So the windows came out pretty good. I had to do a little bit of touching up on there. I mean, this is definitely not a perfect paint job on it. This thing is so small, it's really hard to paint really tiny details. I mean, you can just see how tiny this is. So the really hard part were these little, the little black foot pads that you see going across here. So that ship did have those little foot pads. So this being a garage kit and a resin kit, it does not come with any decals. So I had to, there's the bottom by the way. And so I had to make those little foot pads myself. And oh my gosh, I don't know how many hours I have spent making those. So what you can see how tiny they are. I mean, they're not even 1/8 of an inch long as far as they go. And so I ended up using this black vinyl tape, pinstriping tape. And so, but having to cut it with a, an X-Acto blade here and just try to make them all the same size. And I mean, and then once they are cut, now you got to try to fiddle with it to get the backing paper off. And then you got to place them on there. So between the tweezers and the X-Acto blade, it was like performing surgery. It was just crazy. But I think they look pretty good. I'm actually pleased with the way they turned out. They turned out better than I thought. And that's the other side there. Also, I did a little bit of a scratch build here on the back where those little louvers are, because that back tail piece, it doesn't have any detail on there. And so I went ahead and decided to put that on, and I think it just looks better than having it left blank like that. And so, yeah, and then I do still wish that dome on the top was the clear piece that Randy has on his website, but that silver is just going to have to do, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. There's the back little engine nozzles there. Here's the other side. You can see how that all looks. So yeah, the bottom doesn't have too much detail, that little yellow hatch down there, and then this front little area. There is actually 3 grills or 3 bars that go across those black openings right there, and I actually toyed with the idea of using this really thin styrene rod on there to put that underneath there, but oh man, I don't know. I was kind of trying it out with some tweezers and stuff, and that is just way too fiddly. So yeah, I think I'm just going to scrap that idea. And then also on the ship here, there's usually some there's some wording. There's like little decals, like right in this area. There's some words. It's I can't remember the name of the outfit that was doing this, expedition. And there's some wording right up here, and then there's a little bit underneath here too. And I was thinking of just using like a really fine Sharpie marker and just make it look like there's words on there. But I don't know. I think I don't want to risk it and make it look really bad. And now I've got this weird looking blotch of stuff on there. And I just think it's, when it comes to stuff like this, you just got to know when to stop and not overdo it, because it just seems like inevitably you're going to mess something up, and then you're kicking yourself for just going a little too far. So anyway, I think this turned out pretty good. So now I'm gonna get to work now on the diorama. There's not much to do with this now. I'm just gonna paint these little lines and the little dots and stuff. I'm just gonna paint those black, because in the movie, that's how that looked. It just had black outlines on it. And so, and then I also found some metal rod, which is right here, and I'm going to use this as the little strut that is going to support the Proteus to the background there. I made the hole the right size, and I just painted it purple to match that background. So, all right, well, we'll see how the rest of it turns out. I just realized I forgot to add these back window pieces back here, so now those are on. So I just used vinyl tape for those as well. I thought something was missing back there. All right, well, I'm completely finished now, and this actually turned out pretty good. I'm rather impressed that this turned out as good as it did. I'm usually not very good when it comes to building garage kits, because they're not perfect kits. I mean, you got to keep in mind these are hand molded kits that are made by somebody in basically a garage. But anyway, this looks really good. I'm actually very, very pleased with the way this turned out. So I just kind of gussied it up a little bit using that. Well, if you're watching the movie, when they're going through the body, that man's body, there's all these weird stringy things and stuff hanging down. I decided to just do that using a hot glue gun and just kind of stringing it along, and then once the strings dry, add a little bit more to thicken it up a little bit. It's a little bit tricky, but I think it looks pretty good. I didn't want too much of it where it obscures the view of the Proteus itself. But and I really like this little diorama. I think that looks pretty cool with the I don't know, I can't remember what those are called. It was like a vein or an artery or something when they were going through it, and it had that kind of pattern in the background. And so here you can see, and then I got you can just barely see that little strut back there holding it up, and it's purple. And then I kept it short so that the Proteus is closer to the wall here, and that way I don't have to have these interfering with the model itself. Back here, there's not much to look at in the back. It's just, I didn't really do much with it just because it's not going to be looked at anyway. But yeah, there you can see that strut. But yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's kind of got a neat little look to it considering the size of it. I mean, it's, like I said, it's only about 3 1/8 inch long. But this was a Randy Cooper model, and if you are interested in getting one, I will, like I mentioned, leave a link in the description. You can check out Randy's website. He does other cool garage kits like this, and I think this one's really neat. I was really pleased with this. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. It was a lot of work, but most garage kits are, because you have to do a lot of scratch building, just like I did with the foot pads and the little thing on the back, the little louvers on the back fin. And then, and then you can always add stuff like that to it. I'm sure there's even more stuff that I could have done with this, and I'm sure some people will even put lighting in it or something. I don't know how you could light that, though. That's all solid, and I wouldn't even want to attempt something like that. I mean, I do have my limits when it comes to this stuff. But anyway, yeah, that's it. That is the Randy Cooper Mini Proteus model from Fantastic Voyage. Really cool movie. If you haven't seen it, go find it somewhere. It's a classic. It's from 1966. The special effects are really, really well done. They still look good even today, all these years later. And everything was done practically, which I always appreciate, because those guys had to be on top of things to make stuff look good in person for real, So special effects of that kind were, took a lot of talent. All right, well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again, and have a good one.